Hey, so yesterday somebody posted a short, concise question on the Neville Goddard subreddit about revision when it comes to events that are so shameful that you don't even want to think about. Like, it's too painful to even go back to the scene and revise it. And I wanted to talk about this because I have a few things to say about it. As somebody who has recently been plumbing the depths of all of my most shameful memories and trying to change the beliefs that I formed from those memories about myself in order to unwittingly ruin my life for like 25 years. So the first thing that I wanted to say about shameful memories and shameful events, looking back on them, is that I think it's worth it. You know, this will be harder to do if the shameful thing was like a week ago than if it was like 20 years ago. But I think a good thing to do, first of all, is to try to view the shameful event as objectively as possible and view the players that were involved as objectively as possible from this different later vantage point, and really examine whether or not you need to be as ashamed about it as you were and are. Because I think that a lot of times what happens with these memories that cause us to create beliefs that then run things in the background is that at the time, you know, we have this immature or less evolved outlook on life, or, you know, we have lots and lots of beliefs about ourselves that make this feeling of shame in the moment so intense that it colors in the meaning around the whole thing. I mean, I know there are some events where, you know, that's not the case, but I think for a lot of these, there is an element of excess. If you're able to look at it objectively as an adult, even if you were an adult when it happened, you know, hopefully we're all progressing forward with our experience and maturity and all of that. I think if you can look at it, you know, from this more evolved standpoint, a lot of times you'll be able to take a lot of the wind out of the shame sails just by realizing that, you know, your feelings in the time were not commensurate with what actually happened. For me, that's really changed a bunch of things. You know, I'll link to the video that I made about walking through the belief that I'm an embarrassment that came from a stupid event with my brother. And I realized that's not a very shameful thing. Like, I didn't do something horrible there, but, you know, it's one of those things where looking back on it, you can kind of laugh it off and let it go. I think a lot of the time, I think you can absolutely just revise by, looking at something objectively and letting it go. I don't think it always requires spending a lot of mental energy going over and over and over something in order to try to change it into a different memory, which, in my opinion, from everything that I've been able to gather from Neville Goddard, that is the purpose of revision. The purpose of revision is to essentially rewrite so that you autopilot from a different standpoint. That's my assessment of that. But then for the things that you know, for things that you can't just look at and say, well, I was young and stupid, where it's not quite enough to just, you know, look back and write it off as being, you know, something between kids or something that you overreacted to. I think it really, really helps, and I want to get into this a little more after this because this is actually really useful. This is a life pro tip that I learned from Reddit, actually, I think from the Get Motivated subreddit, and this really, really helped me be successful in a lot of things. But I think it helps very much to divide your view of yourself, divide yourself in your mind into 3 versions: past version, present version, and future version. Now, obviously, you're always inhabiting present version you, and that's where you want to be. But when looking at things from your past, you know, I think that it's easier for many of us, certainly for me, to forgive other people than it is to forgive ourselves. It's easier to just look at somebody who did something stupid. Like if you're talking to a friend who told you, if you're talking to a friend that is you right now, essentially, details wise. If you were talking to a friend and they said, yeah, I've done all this, I'm really trying to make good with my life and I'm trying to change my beliefs and really become a better person and whatever, but I just can't get past this thing that I did, whenever. I think it would be a lot easier for you to say to that person, hey, you gotta let it go. Like, you're doing the best you can. Like the things that you would say to a friend, very often, I think you don't say to your present self who is reflecting on these past things because you're still thinking of the person that did these shameful things as you, as present moment you, when it really isn't. It really isn't. Like, it legitimately isn't. That was a different person. Maybe just a little different, but different. Present you would not do the same thing. And so what does that tell you? If present you wouldn't do the same thing that past you did, then you're a different person. So I think it really helps to divide yourself into these three people in your mind. And the best thing that you can do is sort of remove yourself. Like if you're looking at one of these shameful situations, remove yourself. Don't experience it firsthand. This is what revision tells you to do. Don't do that. If it's so shameful that you can't experience it, looking at it as though you are a different person and forgive that person, understand that person, have compassion for that person, have empathy for that person. If you look at everything you do as essentially the best that you're able to come up with at any given time, which I think is what most people are doing. Most people aren't intentionally screwing up. It becomes easier, I think, to forgive and let it go. And just, when it comes up, those feelings of shame, that's like something is wrong with me right now. When you feel shame in the present, it's inappropriate. Like, it's not appropriate to feel ashamed about something that another version of you did, if you've done what you can to rectify it. That's my opinion. And my main objective, I saw somebody posted a video from Elmer Locker, who was one of Neville Goddard's students, and I really loved it. I watched the thing, he's talking about the ladder experiment and everything, and then there's a quote in there I just loved. I posted it like everywhere. I posted it on my subreddit. He said, and I'm probably gonna screw it up, he basically said, if the purpose of life isn't to be happy, you can shove it up your ass because I don't want it. And that is my philosophy in a nutshell. So, that's my opinion on shameful past events. And just to give you an example from my own life, and this isn't, I know there are like people, especially if you've suffered from addictions and stuff like that, I'm out of my element here because I don't have anything that is horribly shameful. I'm not suffering from anything like this. Like, I've forgiven myself for most of the stuff that I've done, but like, there's one thing that I have to always do this with, where I have to separate past me from right now me in order to not just feel awful. And it's, when I was young, I got 2 kittens when I was 19, and they were like the loves of my life. And the second one lived to be, the first one died of cancer when she was like 12, but the second one lived all the way until not even 3 years ago. So I had her basically from a sophomore in college all the way until I was 38. And I loved that. I loved both of those cats, but like the one that lived to be 19 was just like the love of my life. And when I think back, like when I think about the level of care and attention and spoiling that cat got for the second half of her life, which sadly was after my other cat had already died. When I think about what she got from me as like a person in my 30s versus what she got from me between like 19 and 26, like I feel so bad about, certain things that I just did when I was stupid, or like, just not like cleaning out their litter box enough. I know it sounds stupid, but like I let the care of these animals get pretty bad at certain times, like in that respect. Like the litter box was gross all the time. I was broke, so like, they didn't always have like super fresh food. Like their huge bag of cat food would get kind of stale, and like that's what they had when I was like 23. And when I look back on that, this cat in the last 10 years of her life had like food that cost more than my food, and just was taken care of in a way that I just couldn't come up with as a 24-year-old. I feel a little sick even talking about it. I feel ashamed talking about it. Like I'm scared to even talk about it. It's like, it feels so bad to me. But the thing is, how can you continue to feel ashamed about something? Like when I look at 23-year-old me versus 40-year-old me, like what? There's not, I thought I wanted to get married and have like 6 kids when I was 23. I didn't have any idea what the hell was going on. I didn't even know who I was. So it's strange, to say the least. Think about how different a past version of you was. It's a different person. And so you can't continue to look back on things that happened in the past and feel bad about your current self. It's not right. It's not appropriate. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anyone. It's not protecting anybody from what a bad person you are. It's not, protecting you from trying again. It doesn't make sense. It's a glitch. So think of yourself as somebody else. Think of yourself as a past version of you. Think of that person as a friend, maybe even like your child, and just forgive them for being stupid. And I know the closer that gets to present day, the harder that can be. If it was last week, I don't know. But again, you're not the same person you were 5 minutes ago. So I think it's important to focus only on present you and only have good thoughts and beliefs about you in the present. That's really important. And then I also wanted to quickly, this is really not, if this is Neville-esque, I welcome any comments about this, but one of the things that I picked up, the mental techniques that I picked up along the way from Reddit, from reading a post on Reddit that really clicked with me, was that you have to also begin to think of the future version of yourself as a friend that you do things for, and start thinking, and this is kind of like another version of thinking from the end state, I guess, actually, now that I think about it. You in your present moment, if you act on behalf of future you will create the future that you want, and you will enjoy it as present you, just a little further along on the timeline. That makes sense. I use this all the time, and I especially used it when I was having to sit through periods of time where I wanted to not exercise or I wanted to eat. And I knew that I was going to have to deal with future me, like tomorrow me, was going to be experiencing the consequences of my present moment actions. And so thinking of myself in terms of the near and far future really helped me to sort of align myself with the end goal, which was obviously to get in really good physical shape. And just that one thing is probably, I don't know if you could call that identifying with the future you. I'm not really sure exactly how to phrase that, but that was probably one of the biggest things that caused me to be so successful with that. So I just wanted to put that out there. The shame thing is real, and it's certainly a big part of most people's revision, I think. And so I hope my perspective on that helps, because I've had to sort of devise it for myself in order to get rid of any shameful feelings or berating myself for the things that I did in my 20s. When I think of where I could be right now if I had the awareness that I have right now, it's hard not to get pissed off at at yourself as though you now were making those decisions then, when it was a different version of you making those decisions. And, you know, there's really no point in thinking about it or revisiting it other than to forgive that version of yourself and move forward.